Have you ever wondered about the infamous phrase that led to the banning of the prince by Niccolò Machiavelli? The very phrase that made him a symbol of cruelty and moral decay. So much so that Reginald Pole described him in 1539 as the enemy of the human race. Think about it. One book, a few lines that ignited centuries of debate and painted a picture of a man who became synonymous with ruthless political strategy. But could there be a deeper truth behind this darkness? A truth that reveals the nature of power, and of ourselves, in ways we rarely dare to confront. Today, we'll journey through Machiavelli's life, his controversial ideas, and those words that changed history. What seemed like pure evil might carry lessons that still matter today. Whether you want to understand politics, leadership, or even life itself, are you ready to explore Machiavelli's world, where right and wrong blur and authority becomes the only law? If your answer is yes, stay with me. What you discover might change how you see the world forever. Let's begin in Florence. May 3rd, 1469, where Machiavelli was born in a city that knew no stability. Italy wasn't the unified country we know today, but a patchwork of rival cities: Florence, Venice, Milan, Naples, and the Papal States. Each city wanted power, and each was willing to fight for it. In Florence, politics was a bloody game. Violence was just part of daily life. Powerful families fought for control while mercenary armies were bought and sold like commodities. In 1494, the Medici family, who had ruled for decades, was expelled, creating a fragile republic. Machiavelli, still in his 20s, witnessed all these conflicts, betrayals, and power struggles firsthand. Then in 1498, his story took shape. On May 4th, Savonarola, the Dominican monk who briefly ruled Florence with an iron fist, was hanged for heresy, and his body burned in a public square. Just days later, Machiavelli stepped from the shadows. At 29, he became head of the Second Chancellery, responsible for Florence's foreign affairs and territories. Savonarola left a mark on him, one he'd later mention in The Prince. But the broader context was the Italian Wars, with France and Spain competing for control. These wars brought destruction, hardship, and political chaos, all shaping Machiavelli's vision of power and leadership. In 1512, the Medici family returned to power. This was Machiavelli's nightmare. He was accused of conspiracy, tortured, and exiled from his beloved city. Imagine spending years serving Florence, only to find yourself cast out to the countryside, far from the political center you loved. But this harsh experience didn't break him. It inspired his greatest works. Around 1513, he wrote The Prince and Discourses on Livy. Interestingly, The Prince was originally a gift to Lorenzo de' Medici, hoping to regain favor with the family that overthrew him. This seeming gift became an intellectual bombshell that would echo through history. The Prince isn't just political theory. It's a mirror reflecting human nature in all its complexity. Here's a passage that captures Machiavelli's vision. People are generally ungrateful, fickle, deceptive, eager to avoid danger, and greedy for gain. When you help them, they're completely yours, offering their blood, property, lives, and children when danger seems distant. But when danger approaches, they turn away. These aren't just casual observations, they're the essence of his philosophy. Machiavelli didn't view humans through idealistic lenses, but through hard realism. He saw people as naturally selfish, driven by self-interest, and believed they should be dealt with accordingly. not idealistically. Where did this grim outlook come from? Consider Pope Alexander VI, born Rodrigo Borgia, who ruled from 1492 to 1503. He embodied hypocrisy, supposedly the supreme spiritual leader. Yet he placed his family's ambitions above all. He expanded papal power through deception and nepotism, favoring his sons like Caesar Borgia. He even weaponized excommunication for personal gain. Seeing this behavior from the highest moral authority, Machiavelli reached a bitter conclusion. If human nature is deceptive, trust no one and always expect betrayal. That way, you'll never be surprised. There's a saying that captures his mentality. If people throw stones at you, throw back bread, with a grenade inside. Extreme. Yes. But it sums up Machiavelli's view. For him, success meant adopting a pessimistic view of people and expecting the worst to protect yourself. Authority isn't maintained through kindness, but by understanding and exploiting human nature's darker sides. If humans are so unpredictable and cruel, how can a ruler control them? This brings us to that notorious phrase that horrified his contemporaries. Machiavelli writes, "Is it better to be loved than feared, or feared than loved? Ideally, one should be both, but since they rarely go together, it's much safer to be feared than loved." Think about this. For Machiavelli, love is fleeting and unreliable. People love you when you're useful, but abandon you when circumstances change. Fear, however, is lasting. When people fear you, they remain loyal, even in dark times. Because fear grips hearts in ways love cannot. To maintain control, Machiavelli advocated harsh punishments when needed. He cited Caesar Borgia, undeniably cruel, but successful in unifying the Romagna region through fear and respect. His brutal methods prevented rebellion and secured authority in ways love never could. In Machiavelli's analysis, fear is an effective political tool for long-term stability. These ideas seem harsh, but they stem from his obsession with state security. For him, if cruelty serves this supreme goal, it's justified. But here's the phrase that truly sparked outrage. People must be either caressed or crushed. Minor injuries will be avenged, but major ones prevent any revenge. If you must harm someone, do it so completely that you need not fear their retaliation. These words made the prince forbidden reading for centuries. Imagine how the church and thinkers reacted. A man advising rulers to abandon morality and embrace evil when necessary. This wasn't just practical advice, it challenged everything considered sacred. Machiavelli watched his homeland governed by greedy, failed leaders who were overthrown because they couldn't maintain power. He concluded that rulers must be willing to use any means, deception, cruelty, violence, to protect the state from threats. Yet Machiavelli wasn't just advocating cruelty. He was remarkably practical. He advised rulers to surround themselves with competent, loyal advisors. The first measure of a ruler's intelligence is the quality of those around him. But he added that sometimes action must be decisive. If you must strike an enemy, make the blow so severe they cannot retaliate. This cold logic made his ideas both revolutionary and frightening. He separated politics from religion and morality, rejecting the idea that rulers must follow divine laws as defended by thinkers like Thomas Aquinas. For Machiavelli, the state itself was sacred, and protecting it was paramount. Consider his famous metaphor. A lion cannot defend against traps, and a fox cannot defend against wolves. Therefore, a ruler must be both fox and lion. The fox represents cunning, the ability to navigate hidden dangers. The lion represents raw power, commanding respect and deterring enemies. For Machiavelli, successful rulers combine both qualities. Strength alone isn't enough. You need cunning too. If you can win through deception rather than force, that's preferable. Why? Because people are easily manipulated when you understand their desires and needs. But here's the irony. This deception requires balance. The ruler must be smart enough to avoid their own traps or others' conspiracies. Machiavelli believed virtuous leaders, despite their nobility, would fail against political realities. A leader who rejects deception or violence on moral grounds is doomed to fall. Politics is a dirty game where good people are easily defeated by those willing to do anything to win. His thinking here connects with Nietzsche's later concept of the Übermensch, someone who creates their own values, free from traditional ethics, loyal only to their higher purpose. But let's pause and ask, is this philosophy practical or dangerous? What if a leader applied it today? In a corporation or country, they might initially succeed. But at what cost? Machiavelli's focus on fear and manipulation ignores something fundamental: people's rights and well-being. Yes, it might protect the state, but at the expense of its citizens. Rejecting morality creates the dangerous precedent that ends justify means, potentially leading to long-term chaos. Rule without justice or humanity breeds oppression and eventual rebellion. And Machiavelli underestimated religion's importance as a societal pillar. Then and now. Stepping back for perspective. The Prince wasn't just a handbook for cruelty, but a response to chaotic times. Machiavelli wasn't glorifying evil for its own sake, but trying to understand how leaders could survive and protect their people in a ruthless world. Put yourself in his place. Watching your city torn apart by wars and betrayals. Would you cling to idealism? Or seek practical solutions? Even dark ones? This question made his book controversial. But it's worth considering. Despite the controversy, we can learn from him today. Understanding human nature. Adapting to circumstances. Knowing when to show strength or cunning, these are tools for politics, business, even personal life. Before we finish, here's a thought to consider. Take what's useful, discard what isn't, and add what's uniquely yours. This was Machiavelli's approach. And it can be ours too with his ideas. Take what serves you and leave the rest now that we've explored his world. I wonder, do you think his philosophy remains relevant today?